Today we're going to talk about the primordial beings of Greek mythology that came before Zeus and the Olympians and are far more ancient than them, the primordial beings and entities who were first to come into existence. If you like this content, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. When we talk about Greek mythology, we think about gods like Zeus, Poseidon, Apollo, and other Olympians. But we often forget that Olympians are one of many groups of gods in the ancient Greek culture. You see, even though Zeus and the Olympians ruled much of the cosmos and is dominant in much of Greek mythology, they were not the first, neither the second generation of gods. The ancient Greek sacred text, Theogony, written by the poet Hesiod in approximately 700 BCE, tells that the primordial who sprung from chaos were the first generation of immortals to exist in the universe. As we discussed in my previous video, the Greek mythical creation, many primordial deities came from chaos and the empty void. They were Gaia, Mother Earth, Tartarus, the hellish void, Nyx and Erebus, night and darkness, and Eros, the primordial love. Gaia, the most fertile of them all, created three beings without the assistance of a male, just by herself. The first was Uranus, who was the embodiment of the skies, then Uria, the mountains, the one who stands tall to almost the heights of Uranus himself, and Pontus, the entity that formed the primordial seas and filled the earth. There were other primordial beings as well, who came from the union of Nyx, goddess of night, and Erebus, god of darkness. These beings were called the children of Nyx and Erebus, most famous of whom were Aether and Hemera, light and day. Aether was the god of light and brightness, and Hemera was the goddess of day. As Nyx and Erebus were night and darkness, their children, Aether and Hemera, were light and day, thus together creating the cycle of day and night. The other children of Nyx and Erebus includes Thanatos, who was death itself, Hypnos, the personification of sleep, Morpheus, the god of dreams, Nemesis, doom and ending, Ares, who was discord and strife herself, Apate, personification of deception, Garrus, personification of old age, and many more. You see, these deities were not necessarily gods that are in control of elements of the universe, but rather the elements themselves that shapes this very universe. For example, Zeus is the god of thunder and the ruler of the sky. That means he controls thunder, lightning, and the sky. But Ouranos is not the god of sky, but rather the sky itself. These beings were embodiment of the fundamental constructs of reality and were mainly personifications of universal concepts. The other children of Nyx and Erebus includes Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft and necromancy, the three Hesperides, and Charon, the ferryman of the underworld who crosses the dead souls across the river Styx. Among all the heavenly mortals, Uranus, the skies, made himself the king of all, as he casts himself on the highest peaks of all universe. But the reign of Uranus will not stay in hold for long, as he and Gaia will give birth to many powerful beings who will eventually overthrow Uranus himself.